Welcome to Deep Thought. Ultimately, your faith is between you and your deity. And you know what? Y'all know I don't really talk about specific paths on here, and I'm not going to do it today. But I'm going to tell you something. Ultimately, people have to find their own path to whatever deity they want to worship. Now, of course, we got people just following along, but I don't care what it is. I don't care if you just want to be solo. I don't care if you want to join a church, synagogue, mosque, temple, prayer circle, whatever. Ultimately, your connection with deity is within your heart. No matter what, you have to make a choice. Because one of the things out here is, I don't care which path that you follow, which deity or sets of deities that you follow, your free will is always there. You have to make the choice. Now, of course, we have different groups and different people that try to force some people into something. And that's normal. You know, parents, they'll try to force their children into something. Of course, the children usually leave later. Or the society, or, just some people think they doing something, thinking, well, you should do this, should. Y'all know how I feel about that word should. But then ultimately, it's still your choice. I don't care what you follow. You have to make that decision. You have to make the choice. And it's actually better that way. Like some of the most devout people, regardless of path, are people who came into something as adults. And it's usually people who didn't have a path at all. They weren't forced into anything, or if they were, they left it alone, but they made a decision. And, that connection, it could come any way. It can come any way, but it's in their heart. Your heart has to be open. Because let's just be real, a lot of people, they don't feel it. Yeah, they might call themselves a certain thing, but they don't feel it. Like I talked recently about, last week, in fact, on Sunday morning, about walking your faith, showing it. Because a big issue that I always have is people will say they one thing, but nothing in their actions suggests they believe in anything. They're just saying it. That's because they haven't felt it in their heart. Now, I've met plenty of people, they feel it in their heart. They made a conscious decision. They were moved. They were moved to adopt something. And I've noticed the level of peace that they exert. I noticed the level of calm, the level of assuredness. And one thing I've noticed, they don't feel the need to force somebody. They just follow it, and they just say, they'll just present that clean glass of water. And, and I was thinking about this. This is very important. This is very important. Now, this is not saying you can't tell somebody about your path, or especially if they ask questions. And you should. You should. Now personally, I don't share what I do publicly for the simple reason I don't want to unduly influence people, because I wanted people to make their choice. But if you're talking with a friend or something like that, then that's your choice. But, I'm just saying me. I want everybody to find their own way. I think people should consciously adopt what they're going to adopt. Consciously. And I don't care what it is. And I know, sometimes people get into these arguments about whose is better and everything. But ultimately, something needs to be better for that person, specifically. Because what worked for one person might not work for the other. And I'll just say this for my own beliefs. Supreme Being, God, is bigger than all of us. And we're just small. We're just tiny drops in the ocean. So ultimately, we think we know the bigger plan, but all we know how to ultimately do is follow what we feel is right. That's right for us. See, I'm going to tell you what, regardless of what path you follow, you should be at peace. You should be comfortable with it. Seriously, I don't care what path you follow. If you have any doubts, anything, Now, you need to look at it. Now, I ain't going to say you need to leave something if you have doubts, but you need to explore it. You need to look at it. In fact, doubts can be a good thing because you are forced to really think about it. You're not following the crowd. You're not doing something because everybody else is. You making a choice within your heart what you want to do. And that's the important thing. That's the important thing. Now, it's like, yeah, you can explore other stuff. You can look at it, but it's still your heart. You got to say to yourself, you know what? I'm comfortable with this. I feel good. I resonate with it. And I've talked with plenty of people. I've talked with so many people on the spiritual side. I mean, they've changed paths, changed denominations, did a lot of stuff. But it was their choice. And every single one, I respected. And I think they do get the respect. Because I will say this much. When God puts something on your heart, or whatever term you want to use, it's there for a reason. So when it's really on your heart, even then, you're still making a choice. When you make that choice, you're not forced into it. That's power. That's power. You will feel it in your spirit, what you're supposed to be doing. You know? And when you look at the different paths, I mean, all of them are basically, all of them. Yeah, there's some minor differences, really more cultural differences. That's a deeper conversation. But it's about being your best self and treating people a certain way. Now, of course, there's some cultural stuff that comes in there depending on where you're practicing it. Because even now, you know, if you look at the major religions, there's so many variations within. But, and, you know, it is what it is. But ultimately, even within a denomination or a path, whatever term you want to use, it's still up to that person to consciously decide they want to deal, they want to follow that path. And that's very important. You have to decide. You have to decide. Because if, I'll just use the term God, if God didn't force you to do it, and you know God has the power to do so, if God didn't force you, that means you have a choice. You have a choice. I want y'all to think about that. It has to be in your heart. Your heart. I don't care who you are. All right? So, that's all I have for today. I want y'all to think about that. And think about your walk. Think about your walk. Really do. And make sure you're sincere in your walk and that you represent the path that you choose to follow. All right? So anyway, that's all I have for today. I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.